My goodness, everyone, it's hard to believe that it's already 2025, but here we are, delighted to start the new year and to do so with a community roundtable focused on the subject of project-based learning, otherwise known as PBL. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We could start off with some definitions. If we imagine that I'm coming from planet Mars and I know nothing whatsoever about project-based learning or its acronym PBL, what would you tell me? How is it different from more traditional modes of teaching and learning?
PBL definitely is not a noun, it's a verb, and all processes have a lot of parts. I think you'd see that the relationships going on between teachers and the students, you'd notice that it may be closer than in other classrooms. There'd be a lot of interaction between teachers and students. There'd be a lot of interaction between the students themselves. So I think relationships are a really big part of it. I think you'd notice it's relevant in the sense that project-based learning really focuses on the real world. And with that, I think there's authenticity of the audience that they would be involved in. And just doing things that would connect to hopefully their own interests. You'd notice, we hope, autonomy and independence, that students would be doing things that they were personally connected to. And that would inspire engagement, and with engagement comes rigor, we believe, in the sense of deeper learning, that if someone's truly engaged and cares about what they're going to be doing, then they're going to be learning at a deeper level. So those would be some things that you'd notice in terms of what it is. As a Martian, you may also, to try to connect this a little bit more to you personally, or to a Martian personally, I think you could think about some of the recent, if you wanted to learn about Mars, there would be a few ways of doing it. One would be reading a book or listening to a lecture about Mars, and you can learn about Mars by doing that. Or you could do what SpaceX is attempting to do and creating a rocket that goes to Mars and explore. And I think if you think about that a little bit, the amount of learning that goes into actually creating the starship and trying to go there, all the things you would need to know about Mars, I think you get a sense there.
Ms. Taubner, how would you describe our PBL offerings in the secondary school at CIS for the moment?
James and I started working on PBL for Impact about 18 months ago, and we've really been advocating for implementing an experience for every student in every year level in every subject. So in essence, someone like Ava would be engaging in 8 experiences across the year of PBL, where these real-world skills are enhanced, the authenticity is enhanced, and the engagement is really authentic for everyone.
Ms. Gardon, like in primary 2, is PBL something that is relevant?
There are elements, I think, that have been infused through our integrated studies program for a number of years, but this opportunity has given us the chance to be really deliberate about learning about putting an intentional problem or project in front of our learners to say, this is our goal, this is our problem, how will we solve it? And then all of the knowledge that they build to solve that problem, to your point, James, there's still quite a bit of content knowledge that's really rich within the units, but it lends itself to deeper learning because they're so engaged and there's so much kind of direct personal involvement in solving the problem or the project that we see high levels of engagement and excitement. So there's been a PBL unit developed on every year level thus far. We focused first in the integrated studies area because that brings together, that's our bilingual integrated interdisciplinary subject. But we've also now started to find the opportunities to integrate into English language arts and art, for example. So we're looking for many other opportunities to bring it to life because it's been so successful and the students have really loved it, and you can see their learning has flourished.
We often talk at CIS about PBL for Impact. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I think PBL for Impact is just is a phrase used to describe that, in comparison to the year 9, which is this integrated, structured, interdisciplinary course, PBL for Impact is about just ensuring that really every year level students are given the opportunity to learn through doing a project.
Students get an opportunity to experience it from like reception up to 8 to make this intentional choice in 9, and then also everyone experiences it in 10. So it's that idea of, I think there's some vertical alignment there of, and giving voice and choice and taking what PBL values and offering that to students in year 9. So the vertical alignment is really consistent and important as well, I think, and intentional.
And to build on that, we've talked a lot about there's a incredible overlaps with service learning and education for sustainability, and really trying to infuse in the students' understanding that we're doing this for learning, but we're also doing this for a purpose that's beyond ourselves, that does make some impact in our community. And I think a great example is a recent, actually year 5 PBL unit, where students use their learning around earth sciences, learning about climate and weather, to basically also learn coding skills through microbits to make a design for buildings that can withstand typhoons in Hong Kong. And a big part of that was, you are a part of a community, and your learning matters now, and it will matter later. What skills and understanding and compassion can you use to think about solving problems in your community?
I want to maybe phrase it as PBL for engagement. Because when I hear what you say there, I think traditionally we learn just in case versus just in time. And often I know my younger one in primary would say, oh, why do I do this? Why do I have to do this, really? And I think we've all experienced it. Why? When you go to a PBL just in time, you have an immediate reason why to learn something.
Great analogy.
So I'm going to say PBL for engagement, because that's where I see impact.
It'd be great to hear about your favorite examples, project-based learning experience you've been involved in.
So my favorite PBL project, I would say, was last year in Hangzhou. It was a unit called Hangzhou Hawks, where basically we would come up with a business plan, a business and a product, and then we would create a commercial for it, we would create the product, and we would create a pitch. So it's kind of like Shark Tank style, where eventually everybody has their pitches, and we have a competition day, and everyone pitches their products. We have parent judges, and then at the end of the day we have a winner, best product. And I think that this unit particularly was a very kind of eye-opening experience for me, even after taking PBL in year 9 already. And I think that this was because I could directly see, kind of going back to your point, I could directly see how it was applied to the real world. And this is something that my dad calls the breadth versus the depth of knowledge. Oftentimes, I think the common misconception about PBL, which is also kind of what we just mentioned here, is that you have the breadth of knowledge, you have soft skills, you have the core concepts of the subjects, but you don't have the same level of depth. You don't go as far into the economics concepts or those things that you're actually applying to your pitch. However, I think that by applying these ideas and by applying this knowledge, you're understanding it better, because you're understanding how you could use that information instead of just learning that information.
I was a judge, and I remember I'm going to add in the camera here. So I teach a similar course at universities, and I would say, watching the Hangzhou Hawks year 10 people, you guys competed at the same level as my probably university level students. What they did was amazing. And my hats off to both you as students and the staff and the Hangzhou who did that, because it was amazing to see.
My favorite PBL project, and I did the French one in year 8, and I also did a math one in year 8 as well, but my favorite one has actually been this year, this one that we're doing right now. It's called, it's about culture, and it's about cultural transformation and preservation in Hong Kong. And you get 3 choices right this year for what you want your final project to be. So you either can do a zine, where you have artwork and writing, and then you can do a TED Talk, or you can also do a VR, and you can make a VR world and you can try on the VR helmet. And I found it just a really cool experience when we got to have a day where we got to try out all the different project types. It's a very much I would say like personalized experience in PBL in traditional learning in the past, and well right now, whenever you're in the classroom, sometimes you find that it's a bit rigid and you can't really go beyond the curriculum, and there's always very, very set rules. But in PBL, I've always found that you can kind of stretch things a little, and if you want to add something to a project, it's always, you can always do it. So I found that project though specifically, it was really fun because we got to really personalize it and choose what you thought you'd be best at. I think that PBL is a lot of like a mixture of frustrations, but also you feel, for me, when I compare it to my friends that are in standard, sometimes I do feel like really lucky that I chose PBL because they're dealing with stuff where they have to do it all alone. But for me, sometimes I feel like it's more of a shared burden, especially in group work, where you can kind of rely on your teammates.
I would like to add on that in year 10, beyond just kind of the PBL subjects and the core themes of English, science, INSO, and arts and innovation, we also had an extra kind of topic of leadership, and there were these opportunities available to us that standard subjects that did not have. So we had all of these chances to host exhibitions and communicate to parents and send out weekly and monthly newsletters. And for me, that was kind of really interesting because beyond just the literal in-class opportunities, we also have chances to display our work to parents. And once a semester, we would invite them to school to see the work and see what their kids have been doing. And because of the inherent nature of how these problems and challenges and projects are connected, we kind of are able to demonstrate to them through a very holistic and cohesive exhibition. So they can walk around the different stalls at the exhibition and see how everything is connected. For instance, for how science is related to INSO and how that's connected within English. And we have all the billboards and all the posters and everything we've been doing in class. And for that, they can kind of see how everything is connected beyond just the kind of traditional notion of school and limited within this campus.
Mr. Gildner, did you have any questions as a parent?
So yes, we all have questions because us parents are really pretty simple. We like to get report cards with English as an A and math as a B+. We like this, right? It makes us parents feel like we're doing something, that we're being useful parents. So that is built, I think, into us as parents. So I think some of the concerns that we do have with PBL are on content, on assessment, and on staffing. And on the content, it's because PBL is you have everything interconnected, and you're doing things like websites or designs, and us parents think, well, is that going to meet the level they need for the math and for the programming? Because it's two different kinds, this assessment is kind of hard. And how do we do that? And I give you guys credit, how do you guys, do this assessment? As you mentioned, you have this core skills that helps. But it takes us parents being very adaptable and willing to let these people try new things because it's not the standard feedback that we get, right? Yeah. So there are always concerns. So I think what I see is when parents get concerned, we go back to the default. I learned with the dump into my head, and I took the test with the problem set. When I'm stressed, I want to go back to that format. And it takes a lot of trust, and it takes a lot of perhaps, just that this works. I'm a firm believer in it. I love it, what it is.
For CIS in the realm of PBL, and what would be like the ideal outcome for our school as a whole?
I would personally prefer if the IB program, especially the diploma program, did not have so many assessments and exams. I think it is eventually going to be a bit archaic because you have to sit down and write a paper 2 or a paper 3, and which is marked 25% of your grade, and you have to follow these grading schemes and boundaries. And I think it would be a lot more forward-thinking and innovative if the IB can also, as they are gradually doing digital exams, but if they can incorporate elements of project-based learning and real-world examples and evidence into that as part of their curriculum.
Stay tuned, by the way. Something called IB Plus that will be another subject. All I can say, ladies and gentlemen, is that I would really wish to be a student in one of our PBL classes, as I'm sure a lot of you who are listening to this community roundtable would also think. Thank you very much to our impassioned, incisive, compelling panelists for sharing such wisdom about project-based learning. Take care.